On a night, in October 1720, off the coast of Jamaica, a small pirate sloop was trapped in the dark. Cannon smoke hung low over the water. When the gunsmoke cleared off the coast of Jamaica, most of the pirates were hiding below deck. All but two. Two of them were still fighting. Their names were Anne Bonny and Mary Read. They fought while the rest of the crew waited for mercy. But Anne Bonny was never supposed to be there. Anne Bonny was born somewhere between 1697 and 1700. In Ireland, among the rolling countryside in a modest estate house. The exact year she was born is lost, but the scandal surrounding it is not. She was the illegitimate daughter of a lawyer named William Cormac and his household servant. In Ireland at the turn of the 18th century, that was the sort of thing that got you ostracized. The affair became public, reputations were destroyed, and the only solution was simple: leave or be driven out. Cormac took Anne and her mother to the province of Carolina in British America. It was the New World. There were fewer questions, and far from the gossip of society. There, he rebuilt his life, became a planter, acquired land and stability. Anne grew up in a frontier colony that was humid, violent, and unfinished. There were no powdered wigs. There were no drawing rooms. There was just survival. Some later accounts describe her as fierce-tempered and quick to anger. She was hard to control. Those stories come mostly from a single 1724 source, so we treat them carefully. But one thing is certain: by her teens, Anne Bonny was already a problem no one could neatly solve, and soon she would make herself impossible to ignore. By the late 1710s, Anne Bonny had left Carolina behind. What pulled her to the Bahamas is not known, but by the time she appears clearly in the historical record, she is already in Nassau, and making choices that were raising eyebrows. Sometime in her late teens, Anne married a small-time sailor named James Bonny. It was not a prestigious match, not the kind her father had imagined, and according to several early accounts, the marriage did not improve family relations. By this point, Anne Bonny was very much on her own, and Nassau was the perfect place for someone with nothing left to lose. For nearly a decade, Nassau had been the closest thing pirates had to a capital. But in 1718, the British Crown decided it had had enough. They sent a new governor, Woodes Rogers. His mission was simple: end the pirate republic. Rogers offered pardons to pirates willing to surrender. Some accepted, others waited. And moving through this unstable, half-lawless port was Anne Bonny. She was watching, learning, and deciding. Somewhere in Nassau, Anne Bonny met a pirate captain named John Rackham, but most people knew him by a more notorious name, Calico Jack. Rackham was not the most feared pirate in the Caribbean. He was not the richest, but he was bold, charming, and very much still in the game. What we know is this: Anne Bonny left her husband, and soon after she was sailing with Rackham. Whether it was love, opportunity, or simple refusal to live quietly, Anne Bonny stepped onto the deck of a pirate ship, and she stayed. In 1719, Rackham accepted the king's pardon, briefly. Then he did what many pardoned pirates eventually did. He went back to sea. With a stolen sloop and a small crew, Rackham returned to piracy in the waters around Jamaica and the Bahamas. Anne Bonny was on board. She was not there as cargo, and not as a passenger. She was there as part of the crew. At some point in 1720, another new recruit joined Rackham's ship. The crew believed the sailor was a man. They were wrong. Her name was Mary Read. According to the primary source we have, Anne initially believed Read was male. When the truth came out, something unusual happened. Mary stayed, and Anne welcomed her. Whatever their private relationship may have been is not well known, but this much is clear: both women fought, both women stood their ground, and very soon, both would be tested. Rackham's crew was not a floating empire. They did not command fleets. They hunted small vessels, fishing boats, merchant sloops, ships that couldn't outrun them. They would use fast strikes and quick boarding. They would take what they could carry, then vanish. By every credible account, Anne Bonny and Mary Read fought alongside the men. They were not mascots, and they were certainly not passengers. They were fighters. Witnesses later described them cursing, firing pistols, and swinging cutlasses. They did not hang back, they fought in the thick of the action. Their career, though, was short. Rackham's crew operated mainly around Jamaica in 1720, and Jamaica was not lawless. It was watched and guarded. By 1720, colonial authorities were under pressure to make examples of pirates. Privateers were commissioned to hunt them down. One of the privateers was a Jamaican sea captain named Jonathan Barnett. He had clear orders: find Rackham and put an end to him and his crew. Barnett found them at night. Accounts from the trial suggest many of Rackham's crew had been drinking. When Barnett's ship approached, he fired a warning shot. Rackham tried to flee, but he failed. According to testimony recorded at the trial, most of the crew retreated below deck. Some were drunk, some were afraid, some both. Above them, two figures kept fighting. It was Anne Bonny and Mary Read. One witness claimed the two women cursed the men hiding below. One of them called them cowards, told them to come up and fight like men. But numbers win. The ship was taken. Rackham and his crew were captured alive. And with that, Anne Bonny's pirate career ended almost as quickly as it began. The prisoners were brought to a Spanish town to stand trial. The charges were clear: piracy. The punishment was clearer: death by hanging. John Calico Jack Rackham was convicted and executed on the 18th of November 1720. His body was displayed in chains as a warning. The Empire wanted spectacle. It got one. Anne Bonny and Mary Read were tried separately. Both were found guilty. Both faced the same sentence as Calico Jack Rackham. But they invoked a legal delay known as pleading the belly. They claimed to be pregnant. Medical examination confirmed it. Their executions were postponed. Mary Read did not survive her imprisonment. She died in jail in 1721, likely from fever. There is a burial record in Jamaica that matches her name and the date. Anne Bonny's story, however, becomes uncertain. There is no confirmed record of her execution, no confirmed burial, no verified account of her death. Some later traditions claim her father used his influence to secure her release, but those claims are not documented in surviving court records. What we can say with certainty is this: after 1720, Anne Bonny disappears from the official record. Her pirate career likely lasted less than 2 years, a brief flare at the very end of the Golden Age. But in that short time, she carved her name into the record books. And then, she stepped back into the dark. After 1720, Anne Bonny vanishes from the historical record. There is no confirmed execution, no verified grave, and no documents that clearly tells us how her story ends. What survives are fragments, rumors, and one very influential book, A General History of the Pirates. Published in 1724 under the name Captain Charles Johnson, it preserved the stories of Bonny, Mary Read, and dozens of other pirates. It is invaluable. It is also not perfect. Some details are likely embellished. Some conversations almost certainly invented. But the core facts hold. Anne Bonny was real. She sailed with Calico Jack. She fought beside Mary Read. And in the final years of the Golden Age of Piracy, she stood her ground when many men cowered and hid. Her time at sea was brief. Her legend was not. Because Anne Bonny represents something historians rarely get to see clearly: a woman who stepped completely outside the narrow world she was born into and, for a short and violent moment, lived by a different set of rules. Anne Bonny was not a hero, and she was not a myth. She was very much a pirate. If you want more stories pulled from the hard edge of history, like, subscribe, and follow. This has been For What It's Worth.